Hi, my name's Ian Bennerman, and welcome to a special edition of That's Crap Detection, the show. Today we're going to do an app review. Recently in the App Store, I found an app called Ground News, which is super cool and super amazing. It's got a 4.5 rating, which is pretty good. But basically, what it does is talks about things we've been talking about in crap detection, and that's having lateral reading. So it definitely takes the breaking news from all sides, from local, national, and world point of views. It shows you how the different political biases are and how that affects the different headlines. You can compare your sources on the same story, which is really interesting. This takes us back to the media bias chart that we looked at in class and that I talked about in a few of my podcasts. And it shows you the political leaning of a lot of the news outlets that are sharing this story. You can also take a look around the globe and see kind of where the stories originate from and see how, depending on the different geography, what the stories might be. And there's a timeline also too to see when the story was released and who picked it up and kind of like who was first and who was last. And that's a really interesting part of checking out your sources too and seeing what's going on. And then, seeing how your story changes over time. Check it out. They have so many great things. This is the free version I'm going to look at. There's also a pro version that you can get that has a few more features. But I thought this was interesting, for the review here from the one person. Better than Twitter, honestly, less noise and more focused on stories that matter. So that was really cool. So when I downloaded it, and I've had it for a bit now, and I've been checking it out, definitely looking at a lot of stuff on the coronavirus and seeing what's, going on. But, there's a whole, like it has your feed, top stories, all that type of thing. You can see it has, definitely coronavirus is affecting it, but you can actually change and see what kind of things that you want. One story that I was kind of taking a look at as part of for this video was this one here. Obviously, our friend Mr. Trump here. He has definitely in the news quite a bit, and you can see that this one here defaulted to the center one, and Trump says he wouldn't have acted differently on coronavirus without impeachment, but what you can see how long ago the story was, and you can see the biases of the different ones. So you have to the left, and this headline is basically, saying that, Trump threw one of his employees under the bus to take the hit for maybe things not going as well as it could be going with the coronavirus down in the States, all the way to the far right, which said, nah, there's nothing, impeachment, wasn't distracted, but the other guys were, and even look, this story was 8 hours ago, and you can kind of see, and you even have what I thought was interesting too. You even have one story from the United Kingdom that's involved in this too. So you can definitely see the time from the earliest to the latest of the things, but also location is really interesting too. So you got all the way from the locals in Washington to the national outlets to even a story from the UK and seeing what that is. But it's also interesting to see the story from the UK, what the political bias was on that. So when you go see cover analysis, you can see where the stories come from, which is really cool. You can see the time, and you can see the timeline down on the bottom here, and you can see, when the different stories, and when you hit the play on that, it will definitely take you to and see when these stories, came out and what time, so what was going on back and forth. And then, it looks like at the end, Breitbart decided to come on part. So that's really interesting to show how everything went there. And definitely the bias chart is really interesting, which again reminds me of what we talked about in class. But you can see that the coverage on this has basically center if you look through all those. So somewhere in there's the truth, right? But that becomes part of being a great crap detector and figuring things out and knowing where your biases are and doing some lateral reading and figuring that out. So I think that's super amazing and cool, with that. So definitely too, you can do a lot of different things. You can say, react to the stories, post comments, all that. So you can get interactive with things too. What I thought was too is you can create your own feed which I haven't got into yet really a lot, but I'm definitely following, a lot of different things from it. One thing I thought was interesting too, when you go to the settings, again, I haven't been using this app for a heck of a long time, but when I went to my news bios, it was interesting that I've been reading a lot of like global, stories about the pandemic, obviously. A few of the, well, just got a Twitter notification. That's cool. Uh, lots of local stories. But so it's interesting when I started, but it's interesting here too, that mostly medical, which makes sense. I've been reading a lot about the coronavirus on this. Most of it is North America, but you can kind of see my pie graph. It's interesting how they collect the data and put that in. I wonder if they use that for anything. That'd be, interesting. It's interesting. I guess the news that I'm checking out the most is Today Nigeria. I did look at a lot of different stories once when I first got it that was about the coronavirus that was from Nigeria. And I thought it was interesting too. I think it was also looking at some of the stories about the malaria pill that they think might work for coronavirus, and I think Nigeria Today had that. So it's interesting to see that and see if you can acknowledge your news bias and that too. So really cool. Check some of the features out. I also thought too that if you want to learn more about it, again, I like this, how it's kind of showing what, you can even see there the different words that are using, or here you can see the different locations. Syria terrorism, USA activists. You can see how you can be informed quickly and seeing how things progress, from left to miscarriage to right, unborn baby's death. So really interesting. There's a cool little video in here if you ever want to check this out. That explain what ground news is all about. But I thought this little quick app review would be a really great addition to my crap detection research, and I hope you found this little video interesting. And thanks a lot for watching. And as always, I'm Dean, and know your crap detection. Thanks for watching.